Hello, my name is Kevin with Veilux, and today we're going to be talking about the W125, and we're going to talk about the 2028 telemetry system. Today we're looking at the SVEX-W125 without the wiper, but I will show you how to hook up the wiper function. This is a 24 volt unit and not the 220 like we have already listed. Now, on the side of the unit, you'll see the sticker, and this sticker indicates the commands that you will need to hook up the wiring on the telemetry. If we zoom in really good, we can see this is the function, this is the color. So this means when we go to the telemetry, up is going to be red, down is going to be yellow, left is going to be green, right is going to be blue, common is gray, and the heater is going to be red and brown. Okay, now we're going to spin the unit on the opposite side, and on the other side of the unit we've got a wiring code. Okay, and on this wiring code, this code is for the RS485, which is the thin green, the thin blue, and then we have a common, which is a thin brown, and then we have a thick brown, which is the power, and a thin red, which is the power plus. Now, on the telemetry, we have many things on the telemetry. The first one is going to be auxiliary. This is where you would hook up your switch for the wiper. Second one we will not use because we're using a 24 volt. The third one will be your power. Next will be up and down, left and right, auto common, iris plus and minus, focus plus and minus, zoom plus and minus, RX485 A and B, TX485 A and B, a ground, and TX232. On this one, with the Samsung 43X, you will not be using the focus, or the iris, the focus, or the zoom. These three will not be used on the Samsung 43X. Instead, they are used into the RS45 connections. So, when we hook it up, we have all these cables. I would also highly recommend buying a balun as well for the video. So here we have our video connector with the balun. You will strip the coax cable, and then you would hook up the outside of the shield as negative, the middle of it shield as positive, and this would go up to the balun. We do have a power adapter here, a pigtail, to use 24 volts, but you can also plug in this pigtail, which is the thick brown wire, and thin red wire, which is the power for the actual camera inside of the unit, into your 24 volt power that you have on your telemetry. But I've right now got a optional, I'm running it to a different power supply. Now, we've noticed here we have a thin plastic sleeve right here. This thin plastic sleeve that is clear with these 4 wires, one is the power for the camera. And then as we looked on the side of the camera earlier, it said the thin brown was common, and then the thin green is positive RS45, and the thin blue is positive RS45. Then we have another black cable. Inside here we have 4 color wires. Let me strip this and I'll show you the 4 color wires we have in here. We have the shield, which is just a ground, which is not needed. And inside the shield we have 4 wires. Okay? These 4 wires, these 2, the red and the green. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry about that. These 2 wires here, the red and the brown, is going to be your power. Red is your hot, brown is your ground for the heater. Optional, which is the green and the blue, which is going to be the power for, or the switch to turn on a wiper. So if you have a wiper, you would use the green and the green and the blue into the auxiliary, and then you would use the keyboard to turn on and off the wiper. The thin red and the thin brown is for the power. This is for the heater, and if you have a wiper, it controls the wipers. This is the power for the heater and the wiper. You would also use this power, 24 volts, which would be the same power you would use coming into the telemetry to power this telemetry. Remember, this is a 24 volt telemetry system. And then you have some thicker wires, which we read on the explosion proof earlier. For the thicker wires, that red is up, yellow is down, green is left, blue is right, and gray is common. So, we are going to hook this up. In order to get the wires into the actual telemetry system down here, which is the power, I'm going to use a pigtail right now for the power, and I'm going to put the red, which is positive, down at the bottom. You would put your screwdriver in. I'm going to do it at the top so we can get a better video. You would put a flathead screwdriver and you would gently push up. This will open it up, so therefore you can input your power wire. You would do the same thing for your positive. Okay? If you were not using a pigtail, you would plug in the thin red, the thick power, into this as well to power the camera, but I'm using a pigtail for a third-party camera on this one. You would also plug in the thin brown and the thin red from the black cable with 4 wires. This will give you power for the wiper and the heater on the unit. And then you would need a run of power to here that is 24 volts going to the telemetry. You would plug in all these wires into those 3 wires into these 2 sockets. Next is it says down and up. Okay, so this is down, up at the top. Up is the bottom, 4th row over. And as we saw earlier on the explosion proof, it told us that red was up. So we're going to put the red wire into the telemetry. And then it told us down was yellow, so we're going to put the down button, or the down cable, into the telemetry. Okay. Next, we've got 2 more wires, which is going to be the green, or the blue and green. And please note, these are the thick ones. You've got 2 smaller ones over here, but that's for the thin ones are for the controls. The thicker ones are for the up, down, left, and right. So, blue, it stated earlier, was right, and green was left. So we're going to put green in at the bottom, where it says it's left. And then we're going to put blue up at the top where it says it's right. Next, it says auto and common. Now common, we do have 2 wires for common. So we're going to take this thin brown wire from the clear coat, and then we're going to take this thick gray wire, and we are going to twist these wires together and make it into 1 wire, because both of these wires are common. And then we're going to put that into the bottom, which is common. Next is the RS-485 commands. Okay? Here is where you're going to need your keyboard controller coming in, the wires that are coming from your keyboard, and you're going to wire the commands of the camera with your keyboard controller. So the wires coming into your keyboard controller for positive and negative. The thin is negative right here, and your keyboard, depending on what colors you're using for the keyboard, you will need to find out which one is your negative, and you plug in your negative here. And then our positive, you'd plug in your positive and wire those 2 and twist them together. Okay? Then here, our positive is blue. So your controller for your keyboard and the controller, or the blue wire, is going to go in the bottom on the RX-485. A is positive. And then your green will go up at the top, which is negative. And our positive just came apart, so we need to redo our positive. So I got to take out half of our positive and wire it back together and re-input our positive. So RX-485A is positive. And RX-485B is negative. Okay, now I'm going to give it power. And remember, the black sleeve I did not hook up, but if you do, this brown would be ground, red would be positive, and they would go positive and negative down here, and that would give you power for your heater and wiper. And then your green and blue would go into your auxiliary, and this would give you the wiper function on and off for your wiper function. As I was saying, when you hook up the wiper, green is going to be the bottom Blue is going to be on the top. If you do not hook these up properly, your wiper will run at all times. So you're going to be sure to put green at the bottom, blue at the top. Next, you're going to need to do is you've got a set of switches up here. Let's see if I can get a better zoom in. You've got a set of switches up here. This is for the protocols and commands at this unit. They're automatically set up for our unit is 2400 baud rate, Pelco D, so you want to be sure port 3 is up. The IDs are listed right here beside it. Now on the IDs, you will need to go into the camera and change the number of the ID of the camera before you change these, because if you change these, you won't be able to communicate to the camera no more. So right now we've got it defaulted to 1. Depending on if your unit has a wiper or not, if your unit has a wiper, you will need to turn number 8 up and turn it on. This accesses the actual camera. If you look, there's a number 8 right here at the very end. So if 8 is down, that means you do not have auxiliary enabled, and that means you have an explosion proof without a wiper. If you have an explosion proof with a wiper, you will need to turn dip switch 8. You will need to turn it up to turn on the wiper option. Once I hook up the power, you'll notice a red light lights up back here. I've changed this ID to camera 3 now, so we can move the PTZ. You notice the commands. There is a light that will light up right here. This is letting you know that it is getting a command. Now, if your commands are not set up properly, let's say if the protocol is wrong, the baud rate is wrong, the ID will wrong, this light will still light up, but the camera will not move. But if everything is set up properly, your camera will move properly with no problems. As you saw the light light up, it's because we're on camera 1, which is our PTZ that I'm taking this video with. But the actual PTZ is not moving because we've got it on a camera ID 3. Now we change to camera 3 and the PTZ is moving. The PTZs are not very fast moving because they are explosion proof and they're made for heavy duty. And here we're just seeing the PTZ. We're moving it up and down and left and right. And once again, as I said, PTZs are not made for their speed, or the explosion proof PTZs are not made for their speed. They're made for their durability. In order to zoom in and out on the Veilux keyboard, you would twist in and out, or twist one way and then twist the other way, and that is for the zooming in and zooming out functions. Now on the actual Samsung camera, you're going to see this come up. This is telling you the protocol, the address, and the communication and the baud rate of the camera. Please note, this is not the information of the telemetry. This information is the information of the Samsung camera that is installed inside your unit. So the screen we just saw was the camera information. We're going to power it off and power it back on one more time, where you will see this information. You should see this information when the telemetry is powered on, when the camera supplies power. The camera will zoom in and zoom out automatically by itself during initialization, and once again it tells you the information of the camera only, not the information of the telemetry. Now, since we have ours set to number 4, or our ID set to 3, we cannot access this camera. We're going to need to go to ID 1, and also on the Veilux keyboards the IDs are off by 1 on some keyboards. Then you will hit 95, call, or preset depending on what type of keyboard you have. Now we're actually in the menu of the camera. We will need to go down to Communications and hit Open Iris. Here is where you can change the protocol, the baud rate, and the address. Since the address of our unit is address 3, we will need to change this to 3, so therefore if you need to access the camera to zoom in and out, to change different things on the camera, you will need to have this address here, you will need to have this baud rate, and you will need to have this protocol, all matching up with what you have your telemetry set to. The telemetry's default is going to be Pelco D 2400. You will need to change the addresses on the unit so that they do have different addresses, so you can access each camera individually to do certain things on each camera. You will then go down to this arrow down here and hit Open Iris. Then you will hit Exit down at the very bottom, which is the X, and then you will hit Save. Now you can go to Cam 4, or Camera 3 I mean, and now you're able to zoom in and out with this unit. You're able to go up, and you are able to go down. And this is with the explosion, or SVEX-W125 with the Samsung 43X camera installed into it. And then we showed the wiring diagram of how to hook up the SVEX-2028 wiring diagram. Thank you very much, and thank you for watching this Veilux presentation.